Hi, I'm Jordan Benson and this is my reflective vlog for the first week at the York Theatre Royals work placement where I've been placed with the electric team. So during our first day on Monday we had an introduction with the people we'd be working with. We met Henry, who was the management for us. We met Harry and Mike, who were both working on the Elects team as well during the show for the Coppergate Woman and then for the clean-up process after the show came out on the second week. First day we just walked around and was shown the facilities, shown around the York Theatre Royal where we were working, the seating, the higher up areas such as the storage rooms for all the lights and all the wiring, and then we got to work setting down the wires and clearing the pit for the musicians. We made sure the stage was clean so there was no trip hazards, taping down all the loose wires and running them under the stage to keep it clear. And as for the pit, we made sure all the musicians had the equipment ready, so when they came in the next day, they didn't have to waste time setting up, they could just get on and practice ready for the show. We also, on Tuesday, went around all the changing rooms and met all of the cast members in the Coppergate Woman. We took headsets round with us to give a demonstration to the actors on how to wear the headset properly, the distance it needs to be from their face, and then also the care they need to give it, and make sure that they just put them back in the boxes in the room at the end of the day, so they're safe. When we finish the show, we can just take them all back and make sure they're all accounted for. We also learned how to do a mic change. So on the show of the Coppergate Woman, me and Kate were responsible for doing the mic changes of the actors, because it was an 80 cast play, but we only had 32 mic packs for them to all use, so there was a lot of intricate changes that we need to do. So we were taught how to quickly change them, the proper care, what we need to check for if the mic packs are going to create any disturbances, if there's going to be any noise, white noise, are they too close to the mics and their breathing's getting picked up, are they too far away so they can't be heard properly, all of this. And we went through some runs that day, getting used to the getting on. So as we were running through the tech week, we made sure that we had our set list set out. We got given a matrix of all the changes we need to do. So we spent time looking over that, making sure that is the matrix correct, because in one instance we had during the second day, one of the people, we had to take a mic off, didn't come off until a later date, but it said they came off earlier, which meant one person was going on stage without a mic pack and they wouldn't be heard, and they're part of the choral group singing and they have a role to play, and if they don't have a mic pack on then they can't be heard properly. We also got used to changing the gods out of their microphones. The gods in the play had lots of heavy armour on and loads of clothing, which meant that the mic packs underneath all of the clothes were really hard to get to, so we worked alongside the gods and the actors who played them to make sure that they had helped us in getting the mics on, because their changes were relatively quick. So what would happen is we would have them set in a designated zone, and to make sure that when they went there, they would help us by lifting up their armour if they have any armour on, or if they're coming down to get their armour on, we would mic them up first if we could, so then they could put the armour on over and then they could just get on ready, running lines, warming up what they would need to do, and just making sure that we help the actors to the best of our ability when it comes to putting on this show. One of the key points to point out in the first week was that there was a quick change to happen. So what this quick change was there was a group of Norns in the play going on, and the chorus of York, who were singing prior, were coming off, and they came on and off at the exact same point, and there was a crossover of one mic pack who needed to go from one of the chorus of York coming off to a non that was going on, and then we had a window of around a minute maximum to get this non on stage. So I designated myself to be the person to do the quick change, and in doing so I had to liaise with the actors going on and the actors coming off, where to meet backstage so that I could be ready to operate this quick change. It worked out well. It was something that when mentioned we had to work with the directors and the team queuing stuff up to see if it's actually possible to perform this quick change in time, or if it's going to hinder the show and we'd have to change the scene or change people's positioning to allow this quick change to happen. However, it did go through and we managed to do this quick change throughout the rest of the week. This is week 2 of my reflective vlog for the York Theatre Royal placement. This week has been the show week, so we spent the week before prepping it and doing the tech runs for the show, getting everything in set, planning phases and everything, and this was our actual show week. And this week we came across a lot of problems which we had to work out. So one of the first problems I need to point out is the microphones themselves. So all of our cast members They all have their own headsets, but they don't have their own mic packs. So it's our job to change the mic packs when they go on and off the stage. And we have a small hub of the mic packs, which are the receivers, and this picks up the mic pack's audio, sends it to the receiver to feed the noise through. And we noticed on one of them that the signal was dropping and it was not being picked up. So depending on where on stage the actor walked, the signal would drop and lower. And at either side of the stage, we have signal boxes which project the signal and pick up the microphones. So we had to do, between shows, we had to adjust these to make sure that they stayed in tune and in place so that all the actors were heard. And it would be interference from metal poles going in front of these signals that were cutting off actors and dropping the mics. So we remedied this by moving the signal box a bit further forward away from this metal pole, and that allowed the signal to be picked up more. The second one was the battery packs themselves, the mic packs. The batteries weren't lasting in them. These were not rechargeable ones, these were just battery operated. So before every show, we'd set new batteries in, we'd put the old ones into charge, and we get the new ones in, and we check all of the battery percentages on them before the show started. And in a normal circumstance, the battery pack would last 8 hours, so you'd have a full show run to go through, be it matinee and your evening show, but between those we would normally change the batteries. And on several mic packs, the batteries just weren't holding their own. So during this, when we were doing mic changes, we were having to constantly check the battery percentage on all the people, and then if they were low, we'd have to quickly operate a battery swap, as well as doing a mic swap. And this presented some issues for us with our timing, because we'd figured out the timing and the order we need to do everything on people, and then that led to us being disrupted by having to change the batteries and then feed it onto people. And in one case it did mean that a member didn't get on in time with their mic pack, so they couldn't sing in their song, and this was a challenge we had to overcome because the actor in question was upset that we had missed their swap. So to remedy this, we made sure, because they were on first, that we would get them straight down to the front, make sure their mic pack's on, make sure their mic packs are charged, and then send them off so that we wouldn't have this issue. The third issue we ran into during our show week was the issue of the mic packs themselves breaking on us. We had two during the show run stop working altogether. These packs, they weren't picking up signals and they weren't sending signals back either. So to remedy this, we had two packs on our table that were labelled spares, and these were our backups in case any of these packs died, which we ended up having to use. Then we had to replace the two spares with more spares in case any other packs failed on us. We only had one pack left, so we had to bring in a handheld microphone. And the problem with this is that it would ruin the set pieces, having someone hold a microphone. So to remedy that, we decided that anyone who had to use that would be the person who would have to stay at the back of the stage. So if it was a chorus singing, we could have them have the microphone low behind someone's back, still picking up their voice but hiding the fact that they had a microphone. And we also had some issues with the lights as well. Scrollers were not working. One minor issue we also had was the actors were interfering with their microphone placement. So before we pack people up and send them on stage, we do a quick check and run around backstage and just make sure the mic placement of people's mics were good. A lot of issues we had were people were being too breathy, and then also we were not being heard properly because the microphones were facing away from their face. So we taught them all the care they need to have, that it should be 1 or 2 fingers away from their mouth, not touching their skin so it can't move and pick up the ruffling of someone's face when it's on. And what would happen is when they're backstage waiting, they would be playing with these microphones, so we had to be vigilant and go around and just make sure we were checking people's microphones and just reiterating to them that they have to make sure that they don't push or pull the microphone once we've set it, because once they're on stage, there's nothing that we can do to fix it because we can't go on stage and interrupt the show. This is my third week reflective vlog with working at the York Theatre Royal work placement. So this week we had to do maintenance work. So now that the show's over and we've finished doing the Coppergate Woman, this week we spent a lot of time just cleaning up, checking and fixing all of the lights. So what this entails is we begin by taking all of the lights down that we took off from the Get Out and then putting them into the studio. So we took some tables into the studio and took some boxes to carry the lights and wires, and that was just mainly maintenance work. So what we did here was, got wires from the lights, and you need to make sure that there's no creases in the wires to make sure they work. You need to check the fuses on each end and make sure the wires aren't frayed and connected, and then pat test them. So I wasn't the one pat testing, that was Harry. So what I would do, my job is I would have to take these wires and check them over, coil them up properly in a safe manner so that the wires don't get damaged, and pass that over to Harry, who would then pat test it and make sure that it works correctly. When it came to lights, we had a selection of lights from across the show, both ones we used and the ones that were in storage that they haven't used but will maybe needed for the next show. So that entailed the cleaning process. So we were given brushes and dust cloths, and you had to take care in cleaning all of the lights and making sure that they were dust free and they looked clean. And then the next part was checking the inside. So we would open up the lights, take out the lenses and the glass screens and give them a wipe down. And you want to check the bulbs themselves and make sure the fuses haven't blown on them if they're there. Then you take out the light bulbs and the glass and make sure that they aren't cracked or scratched or damaged, and if they were, did they have any spares that they didn't use anymore I could take parts from to make sure that this one worked and was brand new. This week was also spent learning some terms from Harry. So Harry, who we worked with for the majority of the Coppergate Woman and this week, was going around and learning all the proper terminology, all the correct words and the correct names of all these equipment, and then also the correct places they need to go. So during the show and the maintenance period that we have, we were sent to go collect certain wires, and they have a set area of trolleys with 4 different trolleys, and they have like 4 boxes of wires, and all the wires look similar, but they've all got different names, and it was having that knowledge to go, right, we need a 3-core wire, that's a 5-core wire, that's electrical wire, that's musical wire, I need to pick the right one, because a lot of them will work together, but they won't perform the exact same way, and they may have small interferences because they don't connect properly, or they may not work full stop for certain settings on the device that they're connected to, and this is why it was important for me to know the correct knowledge and the correct wiring when I went to go get them. This is my 4th week reflective vlog on the work placement here at York Theatre Royal. This week was maintenance week again, similar to my last week at the Theatre Royal, and this week we had a bigger focus on cleaning the lighting. Last week we spent working on the wiring and the lighting, but today we had a focus on pushing the lighting, getting it done. So what that entailed was me and Craig, who was someone we worked with on the Coppergate Woman, doing the queuing and also in the maintenance week prior, was to go to the bird's nest on the side of the stage and take down the cans lights that were up there. So there was around 80 cans lights, and the task here was that Craig would send a rope up on a pulley, and I would attach 2 of these cans lights on and guide them down to the floor for him to take into the studio. We also spent a lot of time taking the lights that were there, once they were cleaned and checked and pat tested, up to the flight area where they have a storage room. This is because the bird's nest was better used for lights they were going to use in their upcoming shows, whereas the cans, they weren't going to use all of them and only going to use a small amount. So me and Harry got to work pulling them up. So we went up to the flight deck and we attached 1 cans each to these pulls and began to pull the rope up, and it was my job, whilst Harry was pulling the rope up, was to guide the rope away from the edge, because on the deck there is a slight hang, and what would happen is these lights would get caught and snagged on the hang and then would unhook themselves and fall down. So whilst Harry was pulling that up, it was my job to just make sure that they stayed far away whilst also guiding them up, and also saying stuff such as lying down, which is a term used on the stage to let people know who are down on the stage that there's lines coming down and to stay clear. And it was really important that we did this for safety reasons, as there was a lot of work going on between one side of the stage and the other, and people were crossing back and forth, and just making sure that we called line down before we send a line down meant that people were aware and could stay clear of the area we were in. We also spent time doing work on the lighting above the seating area. So Harry was on a harness that I would spot for, and then I would pass Harry the lights to set up, and it was my job to make sure we kept track of what lights she was on and what lights needed to go where, and I had a matrix of lights that needed to go around the seating area and was calling out what light she was on now and keeping track. Whilst doing this placement, I got offered a spot on a Cassie list at the Theatre Royal. So Harry spoke to me and Kate, and because of the work that we were doing on the here at the Theatre Royal, and how proud she was of what we'd done and how hard working we are, she offered us a place on a Cassie list. And the Cassie list is a group of people who have worked backstage and have the knowledge of backstage, wherein they would post job opportunities for the Theatre Royal. So this would entail it's like agency work or self-employed work. What would happen is they would put the message in saying we've got a show coming in on the 12th of September. It's a week long. We need people in on the Monday to get the show in, and then to come back on the Saturday or Sunday, whichever day the show would end, and do a get out. And then what would happen is you would just put yourself forward for it if you could do it. So you'd say, I'm more than happy to do the get in and get out. And then they would invite you in, and you would just assist them on the show, similar to how I've been doing on the work placement, setting up and doing the wiring, taking them out on the get outs, and just staying longer to make sure that the studio is clean, the stage is clean, ready for the next shows. It shows as a good opportunity for networking. I spent a lot of time getting to know Harry, Henry and Mike, and just being myself around them while still talking about my interest of acting, and made note that, like, working at the Theatre Royal and having the Kazi List invite, it was really useful to me, because if it's something I want to do in the future, I've got the window there. And it's also still in the arts industry, so if I don't get any acting roles, or I maybe want to take time out from acting but still want to be involved in the industry, I have the industry knowledge now of working at the Theatre Royal and working backstage, that I can apply myself into these roles. It's also really useful as well having these skills, because if you're in a smaller production and something goes wrong with the lighting and there's no one there to fix it, I may be able to help having this knowledge of working at the Theatre Royal and doing all these repairs and maintenance and setups, that I can then be more helpful to a studio, and it may make me more employable as an actor, having the skills of maintenance work and crew work, knowing that they can take me on board for the role, and know that I can still assist them whilst I'm there, not just acting but backstage too.